and I found the DJ sitting on the floor with a heroin needle hanging out of his arm, and he had passed out. So I became a DJ on the spot, opening night of my first nightclub.
Donuts and DJs.
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 Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the T-Beck channel here on YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Donuts and DJs? That's right, I got the man who started it all, at least for my own personal life. This is my very own father, Darin Beck. You didn't have a DJ name back in the day, did you?
Nope.
I mean, that wasn't a thing, was it, really?
Didn't need one.
Back in the 80s and stuff, did they go by DJ names?
Nope.
All right, well.
We used our real names.
You just used your real names. So yeah, guys, I thought we'd do a fun little episode. We're on a little father-son like excursion vacation weekend or whatever, and I thought it would be fun to get my old man on here, talk about music, movies, entertainment, all that good stuff. He's got over 30 years in the nightclub and restaurant business, the entertainment business,
36.
36 years. So we got a lot of stories for you, and there's ones I know in the back of my head I'm hoping we get to touch on. So I got my handy dandy questions right here, and we'll get this thing started. You want to give them a little intro about yourself, like what, I mean, I think I asked this question later on, but what sparked your interest in bars, nightclubs, DJing, like the music, entertainment side of all that?
Well, I guess as I tell the story, I was 14 years old and went to the local discotheque on teen night. Walked through the front doors, felt the bass thumping me in the chest, saw some pretty hot chicks up on boxes dancing and gyrating to the music, and it was middle of the disco era, and things were just crazy nuts. And it's like the angels sang when I walked through the front door. I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
You felt like you were home?
I was home.
Yeah, and all good bass should hit you right in the chest too. So that's how you know. If the bass isn't hitting you in the chest, then the bass isn't EQ'd right or something's wrong. But that's cool. I don't even think I know that. See, this is why I wanted to do this episode too, because I know a lot of my own father's history and stuff, and I've heard a lot of your stories over the years, but I think some of these questions will help me, narrow down that timeline a little more. So I know that we're not, eating too many crazy donuts right now, but do you have a favorite type of donut or like favorite place that you go to? Because when we were younger, we used to have a place by our house called Donut Land that we used to go to a lot. It's not around anymore. But that's like really what started my love with donuts, is he used to take me there like when I wasn't feeling good or I had doctor's appointments and all that stuff. And I think that's where my love for donuts came.
I think I like the ones that are kind of crispy on the outside with lots of icing and then soft in the middle.
So kind of like Krispy Kremes? Like fresh Krispy Kremes?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Do you have another like go-to favorite junk food? I mean, I know you like your salted nut rolls and your Toblerones.
Chocolate.
Chocolate?
Yeah.
So that'll answer our other question. When it comes to sweet or spicy, you're always one to choose sweet, right?
Not necessarily.
I mean, every now and then you get a little wild hair on your ass and maybe go for spicy, but you're not Spice Lord like your son is.
No, not to that extent.
My dad just thinks I'm stupid when I do all this spicy stuff anyway. So, all right, what's a must-have beverage for you? Like, I don't know, you got a favorite wine, a favorite whiskey at the moment, maybe like an NA beverage, favorite kind of water, vitamin water?
Jeez, is there anything other than vodka Red Bull or Crown and Diet?
I don't think so.
Okay, then.
I mean, those are good go-tos. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you currently live. Where was the discotheque at teen night? Was that in Marshalltown?
Yeah, it's Marshalltown.
And so that's where you grew up, basically, right? Conrad,
Yep.
Marshalltown area?
Marshalltown.
Marshalltown.
Yep.
And now you're currently in Cedar Falls.
Correct. Have been since '86.
Yup. And any plans moving anytime soon?
No.
No? Not unless we're going to move, to the Dominican or something like that?
Somewhere warm, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere warm all year. Let's go with a favorite movie. So like a go-to movie you would just pop on, favorite movie, and then a favorite TV show or series, which I think I know the TV show. But
Oh, well, the movie would have to be Blade Runner.
yep, okay.
Yeah, Blade Runner. And then TV series? Jeez, I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I watched a lot of Star Trek.
There
growing
it
up.
is. I was going to say, if you're not going to say it, I'm going to say it. But yeah, so you watched the original Star Trek though, right? With
I did.
Captain Kirk and Leonard Nimoy and everybody?
Yep.
And then he turned me on to The Next Generation, and we watched a lot of The Next Generation when I was growing up, and it also allowed me to stay up an extra hour with my dad on Sunday nights. So I too am a Trekkie. What is your biggest fear?
Fear?
Yeah, like, you know, some people are scared of spiders, heights.
Heights.
Heights?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I probably get it from him. But coincidentally enough, we've both been on the rides at the Stratosphere in Vegas, which is like some of the tallest rides in the country you can ride. And I don't know how we've both done it, but we did. The one you wussed out on, too, was the one that's like the safest, so to speak.
I doubt that.
Because it was the one that goes off the side and spins around like that. But I think it's because it goes round and round. You don't like round and round stuff.
Nope.
Yep, so that makes sense. So yeah, besides the teen night thing and like knowing that was your calling, why and like what made you really start, you know, like when you were 18 and wanted to open your first bar, like what was the inspiration, motivation behind it? Just because you knew you wanted to be your own boss and that's the kind of place you loved? And
No, I just loved music. I loved to drink. But more than anything, I think it was, I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, own nightclubs.
Well, because I know that like growing up, you had a lot of other odd jobs, like selling vacuum cleaners door to door.
I did anything and everything to save money, yes.
Yeah, and you were just saving up intentionally to do this, right?
That is correct.
Cool. You know, so what were some artists or people that inspired you around that time? We'll start there, you know, like, because you said it was the disco era, so like what were...
Well, when I got started, the disco era had long passed. It was 83 at that point, so disco was a dirty word in the 80s. You know, there was so much stuff going on in the 80s. It was all over the board. I mean, from, you know, Duran on one spectrum to Psychedelic Furs to Lionel Richie. I mean,
Yeah.
it was literally all over the
Billy
board.
Ocean,
Yeah.
hair metal, I mean everything.
Yep.
Yeah, the 80s were wild. I'm so glad you got to experience it and do what you got to do in the 80s and then imparted that knowledge to me when I was younger, because I feel like I sort of lived through it, but like vicariously. And I'm also thankful for all the knowledge that you bestowed upon me while I was younger, if all that, because I used to not like a lot of that music and stuff, but then as you get older, you appreciate it. And if it wasn't for you, you know, playing that, and if your dad never did this to you in the car and asked you, who sings this song? Like every single song that would come on the radio. That's how I gained my music knowledge and stuff. Because eventually you want to learn to block that slap. So you're like, I already know who sang it. But yeah, so nowadays, what are some people that inspire you, or, you know, what artists do you dig?
Oh, I'm all over the board still to this day. I mean, back in the day, I was a huge fan of everything from Pink Floyd and Billy Idol to, Christ, I even like the Pointer Sisters.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of diversity there. Today, I'm probably I could be accused of being an electronic music freak, I guess.
Yeah.
I love what David Guetta does with his music, and a lot of the DJs that produce and remix songs, that kind of thing.
And shout out to Avicii, rest in peace. I know my dad loved Avicii, and Avicii was, you know, a big part of that movement, a big part of what got you into that scene around that time and stuff.
Yeah.
And he actually just passed away about a year ago today, so
Yep.
shout out to Avicii and all the Avicii fans out there, because I know he's got fans all over the world. All right, now this is where we kind of break down the artist inspiration questions into a little more specifics. So what do you think is some of the best entertainment we've had over the years? And if you want to talk about, you know, like I know you had Eddie Money way back in the day, Flock of Seagulls stopped by, 38 Special, all those kind of guys. If you have any memorable stories, you know, from any of those guys, or any favorite moments from any of those.
Yeah, it's amazing how strange some of those people really are.
Which I heard, by the way, Eddie Money still acts the same way he did when he came to your bar all the way back in the 80s. He still walks around backstage and tells everybody he's Eddie fucking Money and all that good stuff.
Well, yeah, Eddie had his drinking days, and when he played at the bar, he was traveling with his family, and he was theoretically sober at the time. All I know is they were setting up and gonna do some sound check, and I was upstairs in the office DJ booth area. And all of a sudden, I hear some clanking going on downstairs behind one of the bars, and I look out over the edge, and it's Eddie behind the back bar, and then all I hear is God damn it, Eddie, get out from behind the fucking bar. And his wife had caught him trying to get a drink, and it got pretty ugly there for about 20 minutes. I thought we might have to cancel the show, but...
That's crazy. And what's funny about that is, like, we were on my bachelor party in Kansas City a few years back, and we stumbled upon an Eddie Money concert there in the Power and Light District.
Yep.
And I believe he had, like, his kid with him on stage or something, so I believe he still travels, like, with family. And,
Oh, he does.
and all that stuff.
He was really cool. He took me, after the show, he took me back to the hotel to meet his kids. And they were just little kids at that time, but... That's
yeah,
cool.
it probably was his grandkid actually that was on stage at the Power and Light thing because it was like a young kid on stage
probably,
with him.
Yeah,
So,
it probably was then.
but yeah, Eddie Money's cool. I know that there's a rumor that the guy in Flock of Seagulls owes you an ARP Quadra or something like that. Or
I gave him my ARP Quadra on the promise that he would send me some money when he got back to England.
And yeah,
He never paid me.
he went back across the pond, never paid my dad. So hey, Flock of Seagulls, we'll take that ARP Quadra. You know, I could use it for my studio.
Good museum piece.
Yeah, right. Comedians.
So the ARP Quadra, by the
Okay.
way, is the keyboard that he recorded Flockus, or I
Or-
ran on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't believe us, Google it and look at it. And if we're wrong, let us know in the comments. But I trust my dad. And if he says the ARP Quadra was used in Iran, then it was.
It was.
And that's their biggest song. If you played GTA San Andreas, you know that song. Okay, so besides musical guests and stuff we've had over the years, what about like some of the comedians or movie star guests we've had over the years? Because I mean, there's been so many comedians. How long did you run a comedy club for in total? Like over 20 years?
Oh, yeah.
25 years maybe?
Maybe, yeah, about 25 probably.
But I mean, yeah, some of the big hitters that have came through is like, you know, Pauly Shore, when he was in his prime in the early 90s, came through, and he's been back a few times since. I mean...
Yeah, we've had everybody from Louis Anderson to, oh, jeez.
I mean, David Koechner, Champ from Anchorman's been there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to... Chris Kattan.
Yeah, Chris was...
George Lopez.
Yeah, George Lopez. He was funny.
Yeah. Well, how was Chris Kattan? Why did you...
He kept finding back rooms to smoke his pot in.
Oh, that's funny.
Almost had to kick him out.
The funny thing about pot smokers is that everyone acts like, you know, you can't smell it. But if the smell is not in the building or around the area before, it sticks out like a sore thumb as soon as it gets lit up. So
He's kind of a crazy little guy.
well, yeah, I mean, it's the way he comes off.
Yeah. I still have his cell phone number. Maybe we should call him.
Right? There's a game where I watched, it was like celebrities kind of do these kind of shows, you know, where they hang out with people and they'll give each other shit like that. And they're like, hey, who's the most, you know, famous celebrity you have in your phone right now that if you call them, they will answer for sure. And they play that game with each other, and that's
I
pretty
don't know
funny.
if he'd answer.
I don't know if he would either. Maybe it's not even his number anymore, you know? We could get some, like, plastic surgeon in California's number or something like that.
There it is, Chris Kattan.
See? That's real. Oh, that's
I think he was
hilarious.
afraid he was going to go to jail and need to trade numbers, you know?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. In small college towns in the Midwest, it's probably, a good idea to get the promoter's number and stuff. So, yeah, any other special people that have stood out over the years, guest-wise?
God, you're catching me off guard. I'd have to think about it. There's just been so many.
All right, well, if any of them pop up as we go through the rest of the questions, feel free to just be like, oh, yeah, this one time, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, I know this might be a weird question for you now because you obviously aren't spinning as much, but, like, if you had an hour to play a set or something, what kind of music do you see yourself spinning or, like, gravitate towards? Probably more of that electronic, housey kind of stuff, but...
Anything you can beat mix and have a good time, too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're going to beat mix all your stuff, or are you cool with slamming and popping, too?
Gotta pop and slam.
Okay, I thought so.
On phrase, of course.
Of course. What's your favorite kind of like palate cleansing music if you're not listening to stuff, you know, that would be played at the clubs or
Deep house.
deep house?
Chill.
Deep, like what we listened to on the way up
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
Because that was extremely chill, which is fine for car rides because it actually is something you can listen to and have conversations with people and it's not
Right.
like yeah.
Right.
Cool. Do you have any crazy like DJ stories or like a strangest gig? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's, you know, nights.
Well, I had a guy knock me out.
Oh,
I
yeah?
had a cast on.
Oh.
I was leaning over to take his request, and apparently he didn't like what I was playing, and he clocked me in the temple.
Jeez.
And I passed out for a little while.
Was there someone else in the booth with you or something?
Yeah, my light guy.
Yeah.
He took over while I got my bell unrung.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that was probably
Jeez.
the strangest thing.
I'm
And then watching Gary Adams drop his drawers and tell people he's not a fucking jukebox.
Right.
Do you see any quarters in this crack?
That's a good one. Shout out to Gary Adams. I got to do one of these with him someday. That would be awesome. Because, if we want to run through the succession of DJs real quick,
God.
We don't have to go through all of them, but for the main part, it was like, you, and then did you just basically pass the reins off to Gary?
Yeah, pretty much. It took a long time, but I DJ'd probably the first, predominantly from 1983 to, I don't know, I suppose around 95, 96. And then Gary really Gary did spin too, but he took over kind of as lead DJ, I would say, between the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, because I remember I have mixtapes. I still have one of them, actually, that he made me. It was like around 95, 96.
Yeah.
And, so I know there was like other guys that, worked for us for short amounts of times and did DJ stuff here and there. But for the main part, it was like you, and then Gary trained Scotty, and then Scotty trained me. Is like the line of succession that I kind of reference. And it's funny because like some of Gary's habits rubbed off on Scotty, and then some of Scotty's habits would have rubbed off on me, and just like certain quirks we have because of...
Well, there's amazingly few DJs when you think about it being a 36-year history. There's not.
Yeah, as I say, JP is another one.
I mean, we've had tens of thousands of employees, but only...
probably less than like a dozen or 20 DJs.
Right.
Yeah, DJing, like, before the whole EDM bubble and everything like that, DJing was a very, what would you call it? Like, it's almost like its own secret society, its own little fraternity of things, because it's like people have to get into it, but then be serious about, the knowledge behind it and the psychology behind it that goes into it. Because it's not just playing whatever you want to play. There's so much more that goes into DJing, and for people to, like, be trusted with that position for a busy club, there was a lot more dues you had to pay back in the day before the internet came and before the EDM DJ culture blew up.
Well, and we had to play everything on vinyl. There was no...
And CD, yeah.
Well, CDs came later.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started, it was... if you wanted something other than vinyl, it was a cassette tape.
Yeah, and then as far as vinyl goes, there was all kinds of just crazy, one-off vinyls here, and like this kind of edit, but you can only get this mix from this record pool, or you'd have to get it from literally imported from Europe or Asia or something.
Yeah, we had record pools that, the only people who could get the records would be people in radio and nightclubs, and nightclub people got different versions and mixes than the radio got.
That's something I kind of miss about today, because like everything is so available and there's so much music, so many remixes, so many edits, that it's hard to find like the best of the best stuff. But like back then it was cool because it was so cultivated that you knew what you were getting was, for most part, the best stuff you could get. Or
sometimes they bastardized the song so badly you can't even recognize it anymore.
Yeah.
That's not a remix. That's
reimagining almost.
It's an abomination.
Yeah, it's a reimagining or something. And then we should touch on, since you mentioned vinyl, I wanted to touch on the massive collection we have / have that went through the flood. And how many vinyls do you think were there? Was it like 30,000?
No, it's not that many, but there's probably 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a warehouse that was located kind of near the river, and it ended up getting really flooded bad, in 2008?
Yep.
And I had to go in there with the guy who taught me how to DJ, Scotty, and we had to basically peel apart all these old vinyls that had just gotten soaked, and they were covered in nasty river water and stuff, and it was so sad to see. And we still have all the vinyls and can run them through a cleaning machine, and they should be fine. But yeah, it's one of those sad things. And
Huge collection.
And it's weird to see vinyl come back now, because at first when it was starting to come back, only certain shops would have it, but now vinyl's like everywhere. And it's crazy to me.
Well, what you guys do with the push of a button on a rain mixer or something, we used to do with playing two vinyls at the same time, and we'd flange them, and and then we'd also set them back, maybe a 32 count or a 64 count, and pop them back and forth, and really literally remix the song on the fly.
Yep. It's turntablism in and of itself is an art form that's why I think so many of the turntable guys got upset when the digital stuff came around, because of just the craft and the whole...
It felt like cheating.
Well, yeah. And it does. It lowers the barrier to entry, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, if you're attracted to turntablism, then get turntables and records and do that. Learn it.
But to be fair, with Serato and other programs like that, it allows way more creativity than you could do with just a vinyl
Yeah,
record.
and faster because you can do things so
Yeah,
much
oh, yeah,
faster. And you
yeah.
could, yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I guess well, I wanted to touch on some of these other things here, but we'll just ask this next. Like, what's have you had a favorite festival experience? Because we were also lucky enough to go hit up some of the most important festivals right as that EDM bubble was kind of hitting its crescendo. Right in 11. We went to Ultra.
Ultra in Miami. Yeah.
And then 2012, we went to EDC in Vegas.
Yeah.
And 2012 is literally the year. I bet you if you Google it right now and you like type in EDM bubble or something, it's going to say the year 2012 was like the biggest year for EDM music and dubstep and all that stuff. And yeah, do you have a favorite experience from either one of those festivals? Because I mean, Miami, that was a whole adventure in and of itself. We also went on the Red Bull yacht and saw Digweed.
Yeah, he was our DJ on the yacht.
And that was a magical experience.
Yep, that was amazing. So what I'm noticing now with the Deep House and the chill movement is what John Digweed was doing in 2011 is starting to emerge as mainstream now in 2019.
That's
8 years
yeah.
later. I mean, just the sound that he had.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Goldman and I talked about this on his episode because he just got back from Miami Music Week when we sat down and had our interview, and he got to see Digweed and Sasha perform together, and we talked about that, about how what he does is such a different kind of DJing because it's such a chill melodic house thing that it's literally creating like an atmosphere is what he's doing.
He creates sounds you've never heard before.
Yeah, it's just like a completely transcendental vibe that is happening, and the way like he shifted that vibe and brought it up to a crescendo with Donna Summer as we're going under this bridge, that's open. Like it just it couldn't get more perfect that night, I don't think.
So the most memorable experience I think from that was watching will.i.am empty out the entire main stage, and everybody ended up over at the live stage for Aoki.
Yep.
And was that Warp or which one did he do?
He was doing Warp.
He was doing Warp, and then he went into I don't know, the one where everybody did the whoop whoops and everybody.
That's Warp.
Yeah, Warp.
But then that was also, we saw the wheelchair kid that was getting crowd surfed because there's like some popular guy that's in a wheelchair at a lot of Aoki shows getting crowd surfed in his wheelchair, and we saw that from way back up on the hill. Yeah. And so the will.i.am story goes is like, it was one of his first big like festivals DJing, and he's on the main stage. And everybody was like willing to give him a shot and hear it out, but he was having so many technical difficulties with like his headset mic thing and his whatever's going on, whatever he's trying to mix or get started mixing, like all of it was just messing up. And I kind of felt bad for him, but yeah, literally just thousands of people started walking away from main stage, and it was a pretty surreal moment.
It was. I've never seen. will.i.am just had to be beside himself. That was crazy.
That's literally a DJ's nightmare, so like we've all had that nightmare so many times. And not only at that, but at that festival was the last time that like Skrillex probably ever played in a small tent, besides like now if he wants to or something, but he was in like a little Heineken dome thing. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, we have to go see Skrillex. And he's like, what do you mean? What? I was like, just trust me. And yeah, we broed down to Skrillex. That was a lot of fun. The couple memorable experiences I have from EDC Vegas though is all the walking we had to do. There's so much walking. Parking to and from there was horrible.
I would never go to that festival again. There's no way to get there.
It's out at the Vegas Speedway, and there's only like one road in and out.
Do you remember all those girls that were waiting in the taxi line in the morning?
As
the sun had come up, and they're passing out waters to keep people from passing out from dehydration.
Yeah.
And these girls thought it'd be a good idea to wear paint for clothing. And, all these girls are standing out in broad daylight now as their paint is falling off. They're just standing there with their tits hanging out. It's like,
Vegas, baby. Yeah.
That was nuts.
It was miserable, but it was, we learned, I guess. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, here's another good question. Did you ever want to be a musician?
Well, doesn't everybody want to be a rock star? Come on, of course.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. But I was happy just being a DJ, actually.
Yeah. So, but what aspect of the DJing is it? Is it that you like to entertain the crowd? Is it just that you love music in general?
Both.
Yeah.
I love entertaining a crowd with music. Mm-hmm. It's not important whether I make it or not.
Yep, that makes sense. Do you have any advice out there for people that want to get into DJing? Like any kids out there that want to get started?
Well, you can't fake it. You got to know your music, and your audience is going to know if you don't know your music. And being a good DJ in a nightclub setting is all about playing the right music at the right time has nothing to do with your personal taste. You know, if DJs played only what they like, there wouldn't be too many places for them to play anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know, it's, I don't know how many times I've heard Moni Moni. I don't know how many times I've heard
Yeah, by Usher, Single Ladies, you know.
or the Macarena or
Or
whatever.
You Shook Me All Night Long.
Exactly. And, you know, it's almost like tune it out now.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's what the people want, you know.
Yep.
People want to go to places to dance, have a good time, sing songs they know the words to, and yeah. And
well,
sometimes
what good DJs do and what good nightclubs do is provide people a diversion from their ordinary daily lives, and people need a break. I mean, if you don't take a break once a week, it's just like sleeping. If you don't sleep, you're not going to have a very good day the next day. And if you don't cleanse your soul a little every week, whether it's going to church or going to a nightclub or something, you got to do something to break up the monotony.
Yep. Totally agree. How would you, advice for like kids to get booked out there? Let's say there is some DJ he's been putting in his work, he's been studying his music, getting a back catalog and looking through the decades, going through all the hits. So he's been practicing, working his ass off in his bedroom, but he's a little shy and doesn't know how he should approach, nightclubs, managers. How would you say to get booked?
I would say just be tenacious. Don't give up.
Put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there and just keep going back and keep asking for the gig.
Yep.
You'll probably get 9 no's before you get a yes. You might get a yes on the 10th time you ask. That bar owner or club owner might just, you might end up on a Wednesday or a Thursday night or something, but it's a foot in the door, and in this industry, once you're in, you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Taylor G and I talked about this in the last episode of. He's one of those guys that even if he's not working, he still goes around and says hi to all the other DJs. Like, we all try to do that, but you just want to make your face known, because even if all those managers said no to you right now and stuff, the fact is, like, someday they might come up high and dry without somebody, but they might think of you because you're around and you show your face enough.
But DJs almost always first gigs start on weeknights or on the slower night. But it's a great way to earn your way to the spotlight.
Yep. And my only other advice for booking is just have a solid mix showing what you can do, and that you know current music and how to mix it up, but just
It is hard though. There's a lot more people who think or want to be DJs than there are venues for them to play. So I mean, you got to really want it. You got to really know your music. You got to really hone your craft, and you really got to go after the gigs, and you just got to go.
Yep.
Keep pounding until you get what you want.
And that's another thing too, is like, I think if you're in it for the love of entertaining the crowd and taking care of the people and like letting them have a good time, as opposed to like, I want you to see how much music I know and how well I can mix it and how cool I am. Like, when you put the focus on the people and taking care of the people, you're going to get the love back and the appreciation, as opposed to just,
Yep.
ego stroking.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think we kind of touched on this, but what do you think is the most important aspect of the craft of DJing? Would you say it's probably crowd reading and
it is crowd reading, but
song knowledge?
It's taking people on a journey. One of the songs that sticks out in my mind that you can make a room scream just at the hit of a button is "Mo Money, Mo Problems."
Oh yeah.
And if you cue that up just right, and you hit that downbeat where the voice kicks in, where the that
coming.
Yeah, the Diana Ross sample or whatever. It's a true, honest to good DJ who understands their craft can take a room through a journey and make them scream, make them sing along.
Maybe even make them cry.
I don't know about crying.
Well, not for a bad reason, but for a good reason. But yeah.
But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to, people don't realize this, but when you're listening to music in a nightclub setting where there's the bass that thumps you in the chest, the human heart tends to pace the BPM of the music that's being played in the room. So the faster the music goes, the faster the heart rate goes. I mean, it's not necessarily beat for beat, but it definitely increases the metabolism. So the higher the BPM of the song, the higher the metabolism of the people in the room goes, which is why you have to be careful and you got to mix it up. You got to get your low BPM stuff, your bump and grinders in there, but you got to get your your pinnacles and your peaks in there as well.
And it's funny because back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like you would go all the way up to, you know, your 180, 200 BPMs. You'd be playing like Mambo number 5 and all that stuff. And nowadays, most of your peak energy stuff is up at your like 128, 130 EDM stuff.
Yeah,
if not like 140, but some of that stuff gets so hard style and crazy, it's like too aggressive. But
Prince Let's Go Crazy is 200 or 210.
Oh yeah,
200 or 210. But yeah, you don't see very many songs like that anymore.
And as I say, one thing that was, you know, instilled to us about DJing and stuff, and back in the day, it was more of a longer BPM mark that you would take people on. You would, you know, it was a longer journey.
No, we still played ballads back then.
Yeah, at least 2, you know, every hour.
Yep.
And nowadays, everybody's attention span's so short that we're like doing 20, 30 minute, like going up and down and up and down. But that's, you know, times change, people change.
It's true.
That's cool. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Oh, and I was going to add to it, not only do people's like hearts and whatnot, you know, heart rates sync up with the BPMs and stuff, but when a group of people are all listening to the same music and dancing together, it almost becomes trance-like. Everyone's brain waves even start syncing, and you start like...
there's some synergy in the room.
Yeah, and there's science is shown like that, and like... some people ask me like how I maintain my energy level all night and stuff like that, and it's like almost because I'm in a trance-like state. Like I'm doing... you know, something I love to do,
sure.
But yeah, just from dancing and singing and dancing. I mean, look at any, you know, ancient tribes and stuff. That's what they would do. They would dance and sing around fires and go into trances and stuff. And us humans are weird like that, man. Where do you see the club/lounge scene heading in the next 3 to 5 years? Because I know that a lot of, you know, big destination nightclubs in bigger cities are struggling these days. Some people might even say that the nightclub industry is more of a novelty these days than a necessity or whatever, but...
Well, we have a problem in the United States in that hip-hop and rap just has such a stranglehold on the music industry.
Well, on pop culture in general,
pop culture, yeah. Like, you know, the Europeans, they know what they're doing in the nightclub scene. You go over to Europe and their nightclub, their nightlife is just way beyond ours in that they've embraced the dance scene and the electronic music scene at a level the United States just has not done. You know, and hip hop has its place, and it should be played all the time because you need the low BPM bump and grinders because some people can't dance more than 110 beats per minute.
Yeah, and there is a lot. I mean, there is a lot of that good hip hop too in the
Sure.
90 to 100 range where it's got a really good beat, and some like New Orleans bounce stuff has a lot of rhythm to it that makes you want to
I think the music scene will just continue to mature. I think what started in the early part of this decade is, you know, the EDM will grow up. You know, the stuff that it'd be crazy to see what Avicii would have put out 5 years from now. I mean, he was still a very young man, and his music was so mathematical and so compounded with his layers that I would think that, you know, 5-10 years from now it would just be a whole nother level. And I'm sure there will be, whether it ends up a Martin Garrix or whoever, somebody will emerge as putting out that new sound as opposed to being just another copycat. You know, there's a lot of cool music out there. The Chainsmokers have done some really cool stuff. You think about that genre, and it is kind of all over the board. I don't think live performance will ever go away. I think you're still going to see a lot of Americana, folk music, you know, singer-songwriter, that type of stuff is always going to be around because people do appreciate the art form in its live, raw form. But in dance clubs, specifically nightclubs, I see it maturing more towards the European model, and you know, you're starting to see some of the hip-hop artists team up with some of the EDM artists, and then vice versa. So I think you'll see a nice mashup of that coming down the road.
Nice, yeah, and I have a lot of conspiracy theories, obviously, because I got it from you. But one of my theories is that like we've strayed so far away from our pop idols and people playing real instruments and like that being a part or a mainstay of a lot of people's acts. There are people, you know, like I think Bruno plays piano. Ed Sheeran's another really talented dude who actually does all of his stuff live looping by himself. He doesn't usually even have a backup band, I don't think.
Well, put it into perspective. The keyboard wasn't really taken seriously as an instrument until I Ran by Flock of Seagulls was probably the first time the world looked at the keyboard as like a real instrument. And then, you know, So who legitimized it in the rock and roll world? You know who that was?
Eddie Van Halen.
He did with the OBA.
Because he decided to switch from playing guitar to playing,
Yep.
on Jump.
Yep. That whole
That pissed
album.
a lot of people off, but
It did, but it also moved the keyboard into mainstream music, all genres.
well, that's because in the 80s, synths and everything were its like own niche genres. Synthwave, it was new wave. It
Well,
was
in the 60s, it was the Moog synthesizer.
yeah. Oh God, I love Moogs. Like
The Doors and everybody.
and Rhodes keyboards. Oh my dude, those are some of my favorite sounds ever. Like anytime I go looking for a new synthesizer or keyboard or something, I make sure they have those classic sounds. You know, your OB8, your Moogs, your Rhodes. Like you want all those classic sounds.
I think that's one of the things I always loved about music is hearing new sounds that I've never heard before. I remember, maybe you remember a song back in the 70s, Devil Woman by Cliff Richard. There was a couple of synth things in there that was just very eerie and futuristic. And there's just, man, the 70s was just an incredible decade as far as experimentation goes with music. And then the 80s just took it to a whole nother level with, the new wave invasion and everything.
Yeah, those are all good points. But so like what I'm saying is I just think that like, we've been through such a synthetic thing with electronic music and hip hop and everything, and even pop music is so tinged with it's all made on computers now, so much of it is digitally made. It's not made with real instruments. Even country music, so much of country music now is being digitalized. And I think that at some point, also it's because I'm a guitar player, but I hope that somewhere down the road, the guitar comes back like it was. Like it was.
Well, and there's Avicii again, kind of at the forefront of that. He was doing some of that folky stuff with his.
Oh yeah, when he dropped "Wake Me Up," I remember playing it at the first 515 Alive I ever played at, and a lot of people looked at me like I was crazy, or they're like, "Why would you drop this song? This is like some weird country." I'm like, "Yeah, but this is gonna blow up." And what did it do? Went #1, and it went #1 everywhere. It crossed over into pop. They were line dancing to it, just like they line danced to "Animals" by Martin Garrix. I mean, yeah, it's crazy, but. I just hope that someday the guitar makes a big comeback, and I think it will, because all pendulums, just keep swinging.
Well, the guitar is probably still the most predominant instrument. I mean, the keyboard maybe has moved into the forefront today, and I don't think that's going to go away, but guitars will never go away.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
That 80s metal sound probably isn't coming back anytime.
Well, yeah, but that's the funny comparison that I've drawn before, and if you guys go look, you can go check out my YouTube comments sometime. If there's a way to ever search every comment I've ever left on a video, that would be hilarious. But on a lot of like what they call SoundCloud rappers, emo rappers, whatever it is nowadays, I said not only are those kids taking a lot of what grunge did back in the 90s and then just applying it to their hip hop aesthetic, but so much of that rap has gotten so cartoonish and overblown that it's almost like the hair metal of the 80s, where it became a joke of itself. It became a caricature of what it was trying to portray.
Right.
And that's kind of happening now in that scene. And if you don't agree with me, we can fight about it in the comments. But I mean, when people start getting rainbow colored hair and face tattoos all over your face, like where else do we go from there? You know what I mean?
I'll find something.
What? I don't know what else you can do besides like literally disfigure your face. Like
I don't know.
Let's see. Yeah, when's the next time we're gonna get you on the decks? I think.
I don't know. It might be fun to come out of retirement and do like a retro night or something.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, you don't even have to do a full night. You could just do an early night or something, or a half a night, or to kill the end of the night, whatever. But last time I think, at least I saw you DJ, was the Red Bull truck in Lincoln, Nebraska. I went down with a couple buddies of mine. My buddy Prion Johnny, who's going to do one of these Donuts and DJs with me soon. He was spinning at another club. I was spinning at one club. We went and did this tailgate party for like the last big Nebraska Cornhuskers game of the year. And Red Bull has like this big, black truck with speakers and a TV built in. And so we DJ'd at that party. And then afterwards, they drove the truck in front of the bar I was going to play at. And you just got up there and started spinning for like a couple hours.
Yes,
Didn't have like any headphones or a monitor or anything, but made it work.
I had to work it on the fly.
And yeah, I think you were digging through my library.
I did have headphones. I was able to keep.
Yeah, you got headphones, but no monitor. And I think you were just like digging through whatever, because you obviously didn't have your own laptop like with music and stuff. So, but yeah, that was cool. And I know a lot of people out there would probably flip their shit if you got back on the decks for a night. So
it's been a long time.
We should probably just do it some year for like your birthday party or a Christmas thing or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Guilt everybody into coming on out. And P.S. Papa D's on the decks on the 1s and 2s. Let's see. Is there, did you think of any crazy stories come up yet while we were talking? About people, celebrity guests or anything?
Not really.
No?
No. There's just been so many memories.
I know. I'm trying to think of some that stood out to me, but luckily we've never had to like bail any of them out of jail or any of that stuff.
So the way I ended up becoming a DJ is an interesting story.
Okay.
Opening night of my first nightclub, I hired a DJ from out of town to come in and spin, and I won't mention any names, but I was up behind the main bar, and this was a very large nightclub. And
This is Pyramid, right? In Marshalltown?
Yeah, in 1983. And I was up behind the bar helping bartend, and all of a sudden, silence from the DJ booth. The music just quit. And I looked up, and there was no DJ in the DJ booth. So I went back, and at the time, it was an old bowling alley that I'd converted to a nightclub. And back where the pin changers were was a garage area. And I found the DJ sitting on the floor with a heroin needle hanging out of his arm, and he had passed out. So I became a DJ on the spot, opening night of my first nightclub, which was okay because I knew the records. You know, it was all vinyl, and I had always.
Well, wasn't it
loved
probably
music,
mostly your vinyl too? Like, did you?
Yeah, most of it was my collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd never performed live in front of an audience before, and it was interesting. Totally unexpected, out of the blue. Great guy. I didn't realize he had a heroin problem.
Clearly had some bad choices that he made in his
Yeah,
life.
I don't know who on earth would do something like that.
Yes,
in
please
the middle,
don't.
in the middle of a gig. But good God, you know, that's how I became a DJ.
It's amazing too, like what the fight or flight mechanism will do in you, won't you? Because like you didn't have time to think about like, oh, this is the first time I play. Like you don't have time to do any of those fears. It's just like
No.
this needs to be fixed. This has got you. Like this has to
Called
happen
an
now.
ambulance and started spinning.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that
Well,
story.
to put
you
it
guys.
into perspective, that was there was probably 1,200 people in the bar at the time.
Holy shit! I didn't realize it was that big a capacity.
It was twice the size of Shag's Des Moines.
Holy shit, that's huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
I don't even know if you could fill up a 1,200 person venue these days.
No,
Like,
no.
it would be so hard. You'd have to have a really big name person at a cheap ticket price, and even then, you know, it's not guaranteed.
Yep.
That's crazy. See, I told you guys I would learn stuff on this episode that I didn't even know before. Because I do know another story about, like, didn't Brian have to DJ once or something too? My Uncle Brian, your brother?
Yep. I drank a little too much on opening night of the original Shags.
Yeah.
I just so too many nerves, I guess.
Yeah.
You know.
It's understandable. Opening a
And that's
new
how
place.
he became a DJ.
Yep. How long? Yeah, I was gonna ask you that too. How long did like Uncle Brian do? Or did he just do it off and on, or was he
Just
like
off and on,
Okay,
yeah.
like a filling guy?
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
Shout out to my Uncle Brian out there. I'm sure he should watch this. He's got to watch this when your brother's in it. And sometimes though he'll text me while he's sitting in his garage. He's like, "Hey, I'm sitting in my garage drinking beers with my buddy. Have you heard this new Meghan Trainor song or something?" And I'm like, "God damn it, I love you, Uncle Brian."
Well, he grew up with me. He had to listen to music.
Oh yeah, we could probably do a whole nother different episode of just shenanigans of you and your brother growing up in Marshalltown and terrorizing the town and all that.
I did terrorize the town.
Yeah, I think everybody did back in those days. Though you guys didn't have internet or video games or any
No.
of that stuff.
No, we made our own fun.
Exactly, because I remember growing up, I inherited a rock bat. And if you don't know what a rock bat is, it's literally just a piece of wood, like a dowel, with tape wrapped around it. And, you know, kids would throw rocks and you'd hit it like a baseball. It was just... And marbles were a big thing, too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, you know, this is now where I usually ask all my DJs if they have any gigs to plug coming up. But you got anything you want to plug or
Nope.
any special events coming up?
No.
Is there anything you want to ask your son on his YouTube channel? You want to embarrass me, or do you have any questions you're dying to know?
I think you do a good enough job of that on your own.
What a funny little jab from the old man.
Right, right.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you hanging out with me and talking about DJ and music stuff.
Fun.
It's fun, wasn't it?
It is fun.
Yeah.
And I still love it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
one of those things you just don't ever grow out of.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like if you know, I tell everybody I love music, and I feel like I have to over-explain to them my love for music. So I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like without music, life doesn't make sense to me. So like,
Music is the only thing that makes...
sense.
Well, if you think back through your life, you can remember exactly
Oh.
where you were, who you were with, when you heard a specific song maybe for the first time, or those kinds of things. Or maybe it's just a song of that summer that you were dating somebody. Or,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
just
kind of like how Return to the Mac for me always reminds me of Sue's wedding
yeah.
because we were in Dallas,
we
and
were
that's
number one at that time.
And that's
Yep.
also when, Backstreet Boys, Everybody's Backstreet's Back came out. Like, there was so much good music coming out between 96 and 98 that, like, I have fond memories of that time in my life because of those songs. And,
I do think if people think hard, music plays a serious role in people's lives. And sometimes you just take it for granted. And, at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be a DJ. Not everybody's going to be a musician or whatever.
or even into music for that matter.
But it definitely affects everyone's lives.
Because to me, it's almost more of a stronger sensation than, because like how certain smells, like if you smell something you haven't smelled in a long time, but then
Oh, it
all of a
takes you
sudden,
right back.
yeah, you're like, oh my god, this smells like my grandma's kitchen back in the 70s or something. Like,
Yep.
yeah, like music does that exact same thing. But the thing is, music's a lot more prevalent. Those weird smells only come and go, and so yeah, to me, your music, can definitely trigger a lot more memories and emotions and all that stuff for you. And I think that's part of the reason, like I tell everybody in the palate cleanser question that I listen to so much of the metal and punk music and stuff I listened to in high school, because that's when I was really digging through music during that time, and it just takes me back to those times and just stuff I love, So it makes you feel good. What would be a dream guest DJ for you to see on this series? Like, obviously it would be cool to, get some of the gigantic name guys, but like Joe Maz would be cool. We've talked about Joe Maz a lot in this series because, Alex has met him, I've met him, hung out with him a lot. He's a great dude, one of the best dudes at remixing pop music, top 40 music, and making it more fun to play at the club.
Yeah. Jeez.
Diverse is supposed to hit me up when he gets back in town from Arizona.
Yeah. God, there's so many cool DJs. It'd be hard to pick one.
I know, right?
I mean, there's just different guys for different reasons.
And yeah, and what's cool to me about that in this series is everybody has a different story with music of how they got into it, why they're into it, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what's so cool to me because I know why I love it. And obviously growing up as your son, I wouldn't say pressure, but I put the pressure on myself to be a better DJ because I know I have to impress the man that's been doing this for so long and has these high expectations, So like, I think that's part of what made me a good DJ, and yeah, it just helped me push me through my career because I knew what expectations were there. And it also helped that I got into, guitar and cello and clarinet and all that stuff. So I have this like classical music background, so to speak, too. But yeah, so yeah, I'm really excited for what's to come here on Donuts and DJs. Thanks again for doing it with me.
Absolutely. We'll do a retro night sometime.
Yeah, we'll do a throwback night. Let us know.
Maybe it won't even be a throwback night. Shit.
Well, no, not a throwback night, but I mean a throwback throwing you back on the decks.
I'll be the old thing.
Papa D back on the decks. Guys, let us know your thoughts and, opinions down in those comments below. My old man doesn't have many social media links, but if he has any he wants me to share, they'll be in the description below. You guys know what to do, though. Like, share, subscribe so you don't miss any more radical content and donuts and DJs. And until next time, guys, Papa Beck and T-Beck, we out.